Mission.
Hi, this is Joel Persinger. I'm the Gun Guy. Thank you very much for watching my YouTube videos, or wherever they are now. I'm not so sure I can call them YouTube videos anymore. They're just internet shows. How about that? Thank you for watching those, and for all of your help on Patreon. I'm very grateful that you support me the way you do, and for everything you do to support GunGuyTV. It makes keeping my voice out there a possibility, which would be much more difficult without your help. This is going to be, I like to do podcasts about fun things, but it seems so often now I'm talking about political things and the kind of things happening in our society. And unfortunately, that's what I'm going to be doing again today, because I think there are some things that you and I need to be made more aware of if we're not already. And sometimes I think I'm aware of things kind of on a, in the back of my mind kind of basis, and then one day it'll all coalesce and I go, wait a minute. And that's kind of what's happening now. Listen, when I was a kid, and I'm an old guy, when I was a kid, every year there was a little movie that we watched, and there was a book that we had to read in high schools by Ray Bradbury, and it's called Fahrenheit 451. Now, if you've never heard of it, it's a terrific book, and it's written about, well, first of all, Fahrenheit 451 refers to the temperature, at least this is my understanding, refers to the temperature at which paper burns. I mean, you'll put that together here in just a minute. Fahrenheit 451 was a book about a dystopian society of the future in which books were banned, thoughts were not controlled but managed, let's put it that way. Free thinking was not encouraged. Any kind of information or education that did not fit the government mindset was banned. And oddly enough, the fire department's sole job was not to put out fires, but instead was to hunt down books and anyone who owned books or periodicals or anything along those lines, and then burn them. So it was a really strange book, but it was a very good book. It was required reading when I was in school, and every year in school, I remember we watched the movie. I think the movie came out in 1953 or right around in there, and it actually was pretty well done for its time. It was a little cheesy, but it was pretty well done for its time, and by the time I got out of high school, I had seen it a dozen times and was a little bit tired of it. That said, one of the things that was the key lesson that was to come away from that, and every teacher that showed it pretty much said in a different way the same thing, that we cannot shut down knowledge, that we should not dispel, or we should not control, or we should not hold down free thinking, that we should be able to have a free flow of information, and we should be able to have a conversation about things and discuss things and talk about, well, not only the topics that are popular, but the ones that aren't. The society I see right now is not a society I thought I would ever live in. Our electronic books are about to be burned. In fact, they're being burned. YouTube has decided what we can have as information and what we can't. And not just about firearms, but that is a big deal to me, obviously, because it's GunGuyTV, but also just about conservative thinking. Conservative thinkers and conservative commentators are being banned from YouTube right, left, and sideways. They're receiving strikes. They're being thrown off. This is the equivalent of gathering up the books and burning them. We have arrived at that future dystopian society where knowledge is forbidden, where knowledge is regulated, where information is regulated, and it's regulated not by the government as it was in the book Fahrenheit 451, but by corporations, by the keepers of the keys of information. That would be Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, these gigantic, incredibly huge and powerful organizations that control the free flow of information. They are doing exactly what I saw being done in that movie when I was a kid. In fact, here's a clip from it so you can see what I mean in case you've never watched the movie. Just watch the opening scene. This is the opening scene, I believe, from Fahrenheit 451.
Hello?
Listen, get out.
What?
Hurry.
Who is that?
Quickly, get moving.
I...
For God's sake, get out of there.
Hello?
On time. Yeah.
Now, if that doesn't frighten you, nothing will, because that is the beginning of the end of American society. That is the beginning of the end of free thinking. That is the beginning of the end of everything that, as an American, I hold dear. I'm a Christian, for that matter, and I read my Bible regularly. I try to read my Bible every day. I have read the Bible from cover to cover multiple times, and I study the Bible, and I do my best to memorize scriptures. And oddly enough, the scriptures I memorize the most as a parent and as a husband are the scriptures that teach me not to worry, but to trust God, like Philippians 4 and Matthew 6 and those kinds of things. But there are countries right now where owning a Bible is against the law. There are countries right now where being a Christian is against the law. It isn't this one, although Christians take a beating in the press and Christians take a beating verbally on social media and all kinds of things in this country, but we aren't in a position where it's illegal to gather or illegal to admit that you're a Christian or illegal to read the Bible or possess one. But that certainly is the case in many countries, and it's very sad, very unfortunate, and Christians are persecuted around the world. Well, I'm also a gun owner and a Second Amendment advocate and a hunter. And I'm becoming a persecuted person in that regard. I'm going to go on vacation on the 1st of April for the first time in years. My wife and I haven't been on a vacation for a long time. We own a business, and sometimes when you're a business owner, employees go on vacation, but you don't. Well, we shrank the business, and now it's much more manageable, and actually we bought out our business partner, and so for the first time in a long time, we can go on a very short, inexpensive vacation, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave on the 1st, and we'll come back probably on the 6th or 7th. So it's a short little vacation. But when we go, I may come back and find the YouTube channel is gone because YouTube is about to start burning books. And like I said, the books are different. They're not paper anymore. We do have paper books, but that's not the ones that I'm talking about. They're electronic. And the fireman doesn't show up with a blowtorch and burn it all down. No, the fire has reduced simply to the ability of a technological guy to sit in front of a computer screen with a keyboard and press delete without any recourse, really, without any discussion or debate, without any conversation about it. I don't like that thought. We don't agree with that thought. We don't agree with that content. We don't agree with that way of looking at life. We don't agree with any of those things. And so arbitrarily, even though the content is legal, even though the content is not harmful, any of those, we simply don't agree with it. It's conservative, or it's firearms, or it's whatever, and so we're going to ban that. We're going to burn that, and we're going to burn it right now. Now, some YouTubers, whether you know it or not, post their videos and then they don't keep them. I mean, I don't do that. All of my videos are actually on a hard drive and they're on a cloud backup and everything else. But a lot of guys don't do that. Some of these guys have got 1,500 videos, 2,000 videos, and I'd venture to say the majority of them they don't have anymore because they didn't keep it on the drive space at the time. The only place it exists is on YouTube. So when YouTube comes along and goes, delete, they have burned every copy of that book. They have destroyed every copy of that video. I bring this up to you because if it doesn't worry you, it should. If it doesn't let you really start thinking about where are we in our society today, it should. We are at a position right now where we are at a crossroads, as the old saying goes. We have to decide whether we want to be a society that allows free flow of information or not. We have to decide whether we will, as a people, put up with organizations, corporations, and government controlling what we can see and what we can't see, what we can read and what we can't read, what we can watch and what we can't watch, what information we can share and what information we can't share, what we're allowed to say publicly and what we're not allowed to say publicly, what kind of videos we're allowed to produce and what kind of videos we're allowed to put on the internet, or what kind of articles we're allowed to put on our blog. We are at the beginning of what Ray Bradbury was warning about in 1950-something. That's where we are. And these companies like YouTube and Google and Facebook and Twitter and all these companies have so much power over the flow of information that they can completely and utterly change the way people think simply by using the delete button at times when they don't agree with the content. And that is what we're doing. We've found ourselves exactly where I was taught as a child that we should never, as citizens of the United States, allow this country to be. And that's where we are. I have said many times, and I wrestle with it in my head, that YouTube as a company has the right to determine what's on its platform and what isn't. However, YouTube is no longer just a company. YouTube and Google are no longer just corporations. They are the housers of thought, the holder of information. They are the place people go to learn things and find things. That's why now Google has become a verb. Well, let's just Google it. When you've risen to that point, you no longer have the right to control information, because when you control information, you are pretty much the arbiter of it. And Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, these companies do not have that right. And if they do, they must not have that right. And we've got to resist that. Now, if you have a gun for home defense or whatever, I want to encourage you to check out Second Call Defense. Actually, I was just on the phone with Bill the other day, one of the founders of that company, talking about their company and what's going on with them. They're stronger than ever, and they're doing very well. And I'm very grateful for that. And he was talking about the fact that they do things a little differently than some of the other companies do. And one of the reasons I use them is because they are a foundation in essence, and the foundation is fully funded, and every month they put more money in there, and it's all a legal sort of foundation. So if you have to defend yourself with a firearm, then the money is already there to send you up front to defend yourself in court, to protect you against the police department, to bail you out of jail if necessary. That money already exists. It doesn't come from an insurance company. The money's already in the bank, and the foundation is fully funded, and that's how they function. Then what happens is you use that money to defend yourself in court, in civil or criminal court, and if you're successful in defending yourself, then the insurance company then reimburses the foundation for that money. You don't pay it back. That's unlike many of the companies who are using an insurance company to come up with the money. And then the insurance company gets to decide whether your particular case is worth insuring. You know what that's like when you've ever been in a traffic accident or had a problem with your house and had to fight with the insurance company for the money. And then also some of these insurance companies will only reimburse you if you are successful in defending yourself, which means you've got to sell your house or come up with the money to pay the attorney in the first place. Second Call Defense doesn't work that way. So I urge you to check them out. Cost is about the same. We have the maxed out plan because it covers my wife and I at the same time. And we know that we're covered pretty much completely if we ever have to use a firearm to defend ourselves. Now, you should also know, too, that this is another way you can support GunGuyTV, because I have an affiliate relationship with Second Call Defense, so that if you purchase Second Call Defense and use them as your service, then every month when you pay your bill, or whenever you pay your bill, we get a very small little commission for it. So I want to be upfront with you about that. So we also promote them because they are a sponsor, if you will, of GunGuyTV. There's one more thing I wanted to talk with you about, which sort of dovetails with what I was talking about before, and that is that we're seeing not only a change in what is allowed to be talked about and what is allowed to be put on social media and what is about to be deleted, we're also seeing a whole change in the shifting of the value of citizenship. Now, just to show you, I am a United States citizen. There you go. There's my passport. I have a wallet card, too, because I go back and forth to Tijuana a lot. My dentist is in Tijuana, and we're right on the border of Mexico. And I worked in Mexico for almost 2 years, and I do speak Spanish, so as does my wife. My wife is actually of Mexican and Spanish heritage, and I'm half Italian, so we're kind of a mixed bag of goofiness here, I guess. But, what we're seeing right now is that citizenship in the United States is being degraded. There is a whole push right now to allow everyone in the country to vote, whether they are here legally or not. I mean, that's happening. There's people pushing for that all over the country. And we have an enormous fight over border security, as you know, if you just watch the news once, and the wall that the president has said he wants to build and promised to build, and the increased security at the border, and the sweeping up of illegal aliens and taking them out of the country. There's a big battle about that, and I think I know why, and I would like to share that with you, because if you're thinking about this whole dystopian society here, and this whole thought-changing, and thinking and information control, that goes with something else, and that goes with controlling what you do and how you do by virtue of what you're dependent upon. In California, I think we have the largest percentage of illegal aliens in our state as compared to any other state. We just have a ton of them. Now, I know that that's also the case in other states, but I think in California we have more. And yes, there are people here who are illegal, who work hard and those kind of things, but that doesn't change the fact that they are here against our laws, which means they've broken our laws. And I'm just going to be straight with you here. If you willfully break the law, you are a criminal. Now, that doesn't mean that some of these folks are not criminals in the sense that they're out raping and pillaging and robbing and committing crimes every day. But that doesn't mean that they're in the country legally. They're not. So there is no such thing as an undocumented worker. That's a euphemism. Just like there is no such thing as an assault rifle. That's a made-up term. Or an assault weapon. There is no such thing as an undocumented worker. No, that person is illegally in the country. That's an illegal alien. Let's call it what it is. Because when we start changing the terms and changing the way we think, we start looking at things differently. When I worked in Mexico, I had to do so legally, which means I had to go through the Mexican process, the Mexican version of getting the legal right to work there. And if I got caught working in Mexico illegally, I went to prison. That's the case in I can't think of a country in the world where that's not the case, except this one. And yet countries around the world will say, well, we shouldn't enforce our laws while they themselves are enforcing their laws. So in California, we have a big problem with that because we're a border state and we have a lot of illegals here. We have illegals all over the country, but we have a lot of them here. And in California, what you discover with the California government is the California government, which is heavily Democratic and which is very difficult to replace and change because once they got into power, they gerrymandered the districts so that you look at the lines drawn on the map of the districts and how they drew their representation or the people they represent. Some of them have these narrow little lines like that where they're just carving out one street or they're carving out one tiny little neighborhood that they know by virtue of census data supports them so that they don't have to deal with these other people who live in the neighborhood who don't. And it's made it extremely difficult for us to remove by voting our politicians in Sacramento, even though there are quite a number of conservative thinking people in the state of California. We're sort of X'd out, if you will, and we're robbed of our representation in a lot of ways by gerrymandering, among other things. Now, if you start looking at the way they think, though, and you start watching the news, California politicians up in Sacramento really do more to protect illegals than they do to protect the rights of citizens. And I think it's because they want the rights of citizens. They want the rights and the authority of citizens of this country to go away. Look, when you are saying to citizens of a country, by the way, your right to vote is not exclusive to you anymore. We're going to let people who don't even have anything to do with the country, who are here illegally, who didn't even follow our laws to come here, we're going to let them vote. You go, why is that? Why is it the state of California just recently appointed an illegal alien to public office? Well, look, while I know some people come to this country illegally and they work hard and they do what they got to do, okay? A lot of them come to this country and they're on the dole. A lot of them come to this country and they're receiving free medical care because they use the emergency room as their medical care. A lot of them are in this country now and they can actually sign up for the California version of Obamacare. I think it's called Covered California. We don't use it, but I think it's called Covered California. A lot of them come here and they get on food stamps. They get on WIC. They get on public assistance because it's available to them. You can come to the state of California if you are an illegal alien. You can come to the state of California and you can buy a house, you can get a mortgage, you can get a social security card, a driver's license, you can do just about anything in this state. In fact, you can actually go to law school in this state as an illegal alien, pass the bar, and become licensed by the state of California to practice law in the state, even though you broke the law and you are here illegally. I mean, this is the way the state of California goes. And we already know because of the Kate Steinle fiasco, and we already know because of the mayor of Oakland, that our politicians and our court system goes out of its way to protect illegal aliens, even when they commit incredibly heinous crimes in this state. Our sheriffs are super frustrated with that. We have, I think, 50 some odd sheriffs in the state, 40 some odd of which wrote a letter to the state saying, do not do this sanctuary law thing because That's a disaster. Right now we have Sheriff Hutchins up in Orange County who's working her way around it to let ICE know about the criminal aliens that are being released from her jail. She's just telling them about everybody being released from the jail so they can go down the list of names and get them as they come out the door. We have Orange County who has, Orange County right now is a big county, and they're in the process of trying to join the federal lawsuit against the state for sanctuary policy. San Diego, my own county, is thinking about doing the same. I think they have a vote coming up on April 17th. This is people going, wait a minute, you've gone too far here. Why? Well, because if you take away, I'm holding my passport again, if you take away the whole concept of citizenship, if you take away the authority of citizenship, as a United States citizen, I have a certain amount of protection and I have a certain amount of authority and I have rights. You take that away from me and then there's no difference between somebody who's got one of these and somebody who doesn't. And now you have a whole generation of people or generations of people who are not invested in this country. They didn't grow up here. They don't have history here. They have no family members who have served or lost their lives protecting this country or fighting for this country. They themselves have done neither. You have no one who understands where the country came from, how the country came about, what was the reason why our forefathers created it in the first place and lost their lives in the process, many of them, why the Revolutionary War actually occurred. They don't have any of that history. It's not their country. And when they come here, they want it to be the country they left. Did you notice that? I mean, have you ever noticed that Californians will leave California complaining bitterly about the way California is, move to another state, and then wherever they live, they'll vote and elect people specifically to try to make that new place as much like California as they possibly can. That's the state they left because they didn't like it, but nevertheless, they'll turn wherever they go into California. And you know that that's true if you live anywhere other than California. It's true. Well, people from other countries come here and do the same. And a prime example of that, and I'm not beating up on Mexico, as I said, I told you a little bit about me. Look, as a prime example of that are the people from Mexico who are here illegally, who will claim in protests that this is their country. It's not our country anymore. This is their country. And they'll wave the Mexican flag. And I look at them and go, wait a minute, if you were so prosperous in Mexico, and Mexico was such a great country for you to be in at the time, why are you here? Why don't you just pack up and go home? Well, the fact is they weren't prosperous in Mexico. It wasn't the best place for them to be at the time, and that's why they snuck into our country. So it's that same mindset of wherever I go, I'm going to turn this new place into whatever I just left, even though I couldn't stand the place, and it was doing me a lot of harm. That's the whole concept of why citizenship is going away. If people come and they need to be on the public dole in many different instances, some of which I listed, then they are dependent upon government. And if they're dependent upon government, then they're going to vote government's way. And they're going to vote for the people who continue to give them free stuff, to tax the rich and give it to the poor. They're going to vote for socialism. That's what we're being pushed toward. They're going to vote for socialism and vote away from capitalism and vote away from any authority for citizens to have citizenship or citizens to vote or citizens to have representation. Look, I wrote an article just recently on my blog called Doers and Takers, and I suggest you read it because I'll tell you something. Takers, when they start taking, they will give up everything to get stuff for free. They'll give up everything to get free everything. And the big free that they'll give up is freedom, yours and mine and theirs. And we can't allow that to happen. In this country, we cannot allow that to happen. And that's why when I say we need to build the wall, deport them all, and make them come back into the country legally, that's what I'm talking about. It's not a bigoted thing. It's not a hatred of other people from other countries. As I said, I grew up at a time when my grandmother used to tell me about the way that Italians were treated when she came to this country and when her parents came. And they were treated, they called them wops without papers, guinea wops. And they were treated much as some people are treated now who have come to this country. My wife's family could tell you stories, if you go back far enough. That's how, when they came to this country. Now, my ancestors came to this country legally. My wife's ancestors came to this country through the legal process. That's the way it's supposed to be done. I have friends right now in England who came here originally, I think 10 or 12 years ago, lived here for a number of years, had to leave because they couldn't get their work visa restored, and they left to go to England. They were gone for, I think, 2 or 3 years, and they had to come back. And they thought they were all squared away to get a green card after many years of being here and working and paying taxes and all those things. And they were told, no, you can't have one yet. You got to go back. Excuse me. And recently, they had to go back to England again and be there for 15 or 16 months and come back. They're trying to become American citizens. And this is the cockamamie, sort of wonky, whacked up process you got to go through. But they're willing to do it because they want to do it the right way. And it's a jacked up process. I get it. We need to fix it. But nevertheless, doing it the wrong way is illegal, and we need to get those people out of the country. So it's not a bigoted thing. It's not a racist thing. It's not an anger thing. It's a citizenship thing. I do not want to lose my citizenship. Now, I'll always be a citizen, but I don't want to lose the power of citizenship. I don't want to lose the authority of citizenship. I don't want the day to come when politicians are no longer responsible for serving the citizens of their state and the citizens of this country. Citizenship has value in it. It should not be denigrated. It should not be reduced in its value at all. Nobody should vote in this country for anybody or have any voting rights except citizens, period. And that is not the way these politicians want it to be. We have to fight that. And as Second Amendment supporters, we have to understand that the Second Amendment is one right of a great many rights in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And we should support them all. Well, there you go. There's my podcast. I may lose you after I'm talking about that. Some people get very itchy about that, but the truth is the truth, whether you like it or not. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for supporting GunGuy TV as you do. I'm very, very grateful. Have yourself a wonderful week, and please be safe.